Hi, I am Allie Camilletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about femininity. Femininity is a set of qualities, expressions, and energies traditionally associated with softness, empathy, intuition, receptivity, creativity, and nurturing, which can be embodied by people of any gender. Angela R. Lewis is the head of operations at SpeakerHub, leading a global team across 4 continents. Angela draws on her background in sports and executive leadership to help others build trust, lead with empathy, and communicate with clarity. She is a former professional basketball player, coach, and author. Through her books and speaking, she empowers professionals to navigate change and lead with confidence using her signature 6V framework on and off the court. Angela, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Allie. I'm so excited to chat.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a little bit of more what you do. I want to talk a little bit about the 6V framework,
Okay.
but let's start off with what's something you've learned about yourself lately?
Something I've learned about myself lately. This one was really hard to come to is that I hadn't really tracked my work as a young professional. And so I coached around camps and clinics and worked in very educational institutions and nonprofits, but I never quantified the work. It was always
Mm.
I helped these kids or I did this program. And it wasn't until recently where I added up the numbers and I was like, oh my God, the impact it's really important to be able to quantify your impact. And so that's something that I learned that really was empowering because I didn't take time. The point is, I did not take the time to celebrate the small wins and to calculate those wins. And so often we get caught up just doing the work that we don't calculate the wins. And calculating the wins was so empowering.
Well, how do you calculate the wins?
Well, for the work that I've done, for example, with basketball camps and clinics, I've worked with and coached over 500 players. For the work that I've done with my PR agency, I worked with 40 plus clients and booked nearly 500 interviews. But there were so many clients. And so I was just trying to keep up with the actual execution of the work versus
Yes.
taking the time to look at it at a macro level and say, oh, this is what we're doing. These are the people whose voices we're allowing to get out there and who we're helping. So the way that you calculate it, just track all of the little things because it always comes back to be useful in the future.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I know I have gone through a process before, and I've had others that I've worked with when I see there's a need for it, have kind of outlined their successes to build their confidence, to see what they've actually achieved, because it is so easy just to get into execution, execution, execution.
Exactly. And the execution feels good. It feels really good to execute versus taking a step back and saying, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and how do we add all of it up because all of it matters.
Yes, so true. So we're talking about femininity today, and you and I have had a conversation before this as I was getting to know you, and I'm like, oh no, this is the topic we need to talk about. And so I'd like for you to share what that looked like for you, the process of focusing on that femininity, because when we think of sports, it's just human nature that we think of that being a very masculine place. And so, can you talk to us about that and what that looked like?
Yes. First off, Allie, no one who knows me really well over the years would imagine that I would be having a conversation about femininity because no one who knows me really well over the years, it's not something I ever thought about because I was just a ball player or I was a coach. And being tough and hard and rough and competitive were really key to how I saw myself. And I never took the time to slow down and take care of myself because I really believe that what we give to ourselves, we can give to other people. And we get to be in tune with the core of who we are. So, my journey to really being more expressive about my femininity came from going to Medellin, Colombia. I did a basketball clinic in Manizales, like we discussed, and then ended up moving to Medellin, Colombia. And it gave me the chance to just slow down. I started taking care of my skin. I started playing with different hair colors. I started wearing makeup. It was things I just wanted to test out different looks and different feelings, but I'd always been a kind person. And so I was able to amplify those parts of me that weren't necessarily connected to being competitive and rough and hard, but those parts of me that are really true to who I am, that were more nurturing and loving and caring.
And so, being that you have worked with so many different people, right, as you have outlined, kind of talk to us about someone that you have watched that was able to embrace that feminine side and what that looked like in their leadership.
There's someone who I worked with years ago, and I think she definitely embodies this. She is someone who held people to a high standard and she held them accountable. And then she would say, well, what do you want to eat? So it was like she would nurture you, love you, but was very direct and caring. And I think she's a prime example of how you can be both. Now, although you don't have to feed people, I'm not saying feeding people is a sign of femininity. What I am saying is caring for their needs is definitely a sign, is an expression of femininity as well.
Yeah, it's that nurturing piece,
Hmm.
right? And
It
so
is.
when you've been in organizations where there is not that presence of femininity, what
When
does
that.
that look like?
Mhm. You feel a bit disconnected when you don't have the energy of care. So ultimately what we're talking about is the organization or the leaders, do they express a level of care for you? For everyone is different. I lean heavily on the very, very super nurturing, and there's a spectrum to all of it, and a balance is needed. And so in organizations where people don't feel like they're cared for, where they're not asked how are they doing, where their emotional needs aren't even considered, that can be very difficult for some.
Yeah, I see it as that empathy piece, right? When
Yes,
people are going through something tough and your leader knows it, but it's their own insecurity of them not feeling confident with how to be empathetic. And I hear this in leadership so much of like, well, I don't even know what to say. And I'm like, "Oh, you don't need to say anything, but it is asking, right?" It's that
exactly.
caring of like, "How are you doing?"
As exactly how someone is as a person, in addition to how they're performing, both are important, but we can't negate the person at all. That's really important.
And we've touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig into it a little bit more. I know from my perspective of going into leadership roles at a very young age, and femininity wasn't even a thing I thought about. I really hadn't even thought about it until I think it was last year when I started
Mhm.
listening to podcasts about it. And I did this funny thing where I wore dresses for 30 days straight
Mhm.
because I felt like I wasn't able to connect with that part of me. I was just such in this mode of doing all the things all the time. And it felt very disconnected, right? I didn't feel like I was having that intuition and that connectivity at all. And it was funny. I joke about like I was cleaning my house in my dress. I felt like I was in the 50s, right? But I think it's so common as women I know from at least my generation going into the workforce in a leadership position that you feel like you have to be masculine to be successful in it. Can you share with me your thoughts about that?
Yes, yes. And I think, like you said, that was kind of the rhetoric. If the leaders are men and men behave in a certain way, then you must behave in that way in order to be a leader. That's something that I think was taught years ago. And I think now we've turned a corner some, and we're able to say, well, show up being the best of who you are, and it's going to look different for everyone, but you can show up authentically now as a leader in all your femininity, wherever you fit on that range, and still be respected as a businesswoman. I had a similar situation as you, where I said, okay, I need to dress different because I've put myself in a really small box. I need to give myself a chance to be the full expression of myself and wear clothes that fit and that highlight the parts of me that I want to highlight. Let me change some things up. So I stopped wearing a backpack. I used to have a laptop bag and a backpack and I put it on my back. But that reminded me of playing sports. So I would walk around like in a business suit with a backpack. And I said, okay, well, let me get a handbag that and take this off of my back because then I'm going to stand up straighter and I'm going to walk different. So I did all of these little things, playing with colors. I never would have worn like light, bright colors ever. I said, well, let's just see how it looks in an effort to remove the box from myself.
So good. Yeah. And really, what we're talking about is that femininity is important in leadership, not to discount it, not to try to be all of that masculine piece in order to be successful, but actually, we need femininity in organizations. We need that balance. And I'm not saying that you have to go to all of one extreme of femininity, right? It's all a balance, but just not taking that piece out. So, talk to us about a mentor that you've had that you feel like really has embraced femininity and done it well.
A mentor that I've had that's really embraced femininity, I would say, is Nicole Adewale. She is the co-owner of Abna Engineering, and she's a mother, and she's in a sorority, and she's going to have on her. She makes sure that she is so kind and so loving, and she's going to be dressed to the nines because she cares about how she looks. And she comes out and she works really hard, but is so loving and so caring and so nurturing and community focused. And so Nicole Adewale is one mentor who I look at and say, well, she's really encompasses it all in all the work that it takes to show up fully. She does it and embraces it in an industry of engineering that's pretty male dominated. She does it with such grace and poise.
And I was surprised when you said engineering, because I think also what can happen is this belief that if you're in engineering, you're very methodical and rational thinking. And when we
Yes.
are so in our rational thinking, I feel like those pieces get lost a little bit, right? That softness and connectivity. So that is amazing.
She's dynamic. She's so dynamic. And so it's a blessing to be able to see someone like her and say, okay, it's possible to show up fully who you are and still be able to do really well in business.
As far as a quote, what do you think a quote is that really speaks to femininity?
One of my favorite all time is Dr. Maya Angelou. She says, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you said. People forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And the feeling part is people, you know, when people care about you, you know, when you feel loved. And that's something that is really important to me.
Yeah. And it speaks to the industry that I work a lot in, of hospitality, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're always striving for that, how you make
Yes.
people feel. Talk to us about your books.
My first book, The Game Changing Assist: Six Simple Ways to Choose Success, came out of a speech that I gave. And I kept giving this speech, and the speech is really about choosing your voice, choosing your vision, choosing your values, choosing how you come out of the valley, your victories are product of your choices, and then choosing to volunteer. And so those 6 components really impact all of our lives in a lot of different ways, but we always have a choice. The essence of the book is you get to choose for yourself, your mindset, and where you want to go in your life. And each step of the way, you're going to have to bounce back from something. So that book
Yeah.
is The Game Changing Assist. This is where I introduce the 6V framework. And then there's a workbook with activities for groups. I've done trainings with groups and teams using using the activities from the book to help them be able to chart the path and see that they have power to create the lives that they want. And then my next book is Post Moves, The Female Athlete's Guide to Dominate Life After College. Now more than ever, people really love and care about women's sports. There's
Yeah.
marketing behind women's sports, there's visibility. And so this book, although written in 2016, is so timely because mentors make a difference, and being able to have a plan and ideas about what you're going to do after makes a big difference. So that book, I interviewed 15 women who played different sports in college and who are all now professionals, and ask them about their journey in an effort to help women now understand how to best transition.
That is so cool. Yeah. I remember, well, it was back in the early 90s. I loved golf. Golf was my passion. Like,
Mm,
I just felt at peace when I was on the golf course, and that's what I wanted to do. And my
really?
mentor, and I was like, I want to be a professional golfer. Like, this is where I feel my most zen. And he said, Allie, there is no money in women's golf right now at all. Like, I want you to not have to struggle your entire life. So I have a really hard time recommending that. And so I did. I put it off to the side and went the hospitality route. But yeah, it's so nice to see that there is more for women, that they can go that route.
They can. They can. It's really fascinating to see it. And I think so many women like you and myself who played back in the day and who were didn't have the opportunities are just cheering them on to go ahead and take advantage of all of it now, because this is a turning point in the history of women's sports and in the way that we view women athletes as professional athletes.
Exactly. Any other books you want to tell us about?
There's one coming up that I'm working on. Thank you for the nudge. Thank you for the nudge, Allie. So I am currently working on a children's book, and this one I am elated to share. It is called A Ball and a Chance: Destiny's Colombian Adventure. There's a little girl from St. Louis. This book is based off my story. So let me give you the backstory. It's a children's book about a little girl from St. Louis who's taller than everyone. I'm 6'1". I've been this tall since I was 12 years old. Yep, you see your face?
Wow.
Exactly. I, I get that all the time. Everyone's shocked. Yes, I've been this tall for a really long time. And in, I didn't feel comfortable in all the spaces, pretty much all spaces, particularly school and other spaces, until I started playing basketball. And basketball found me. I was invited to come play on a team and ultimately ended up playing professionally. So this book is about a little girl who is really tall. She feels out of place. Her auntie is a basketball coach. And so she invites her to come to a basketball camp in Medellin, Colombia. And she has an incredible time. She meets new kids. She learns a little bit of Spanish. And the story is about her dealing with not feeling comfortable, meeting friends, creating connections with culture, and then coming back home feeling more confident and having these global experiences. So I am elated. I'm so happy and excited about the impact this book is going to have on children's lives.
Are you finding a sense of healing by writing this?
Yes. Yes. And I don't have children, so I'll say that as well. So this is like the little girl. Like this is what I would tell my daughters, what I tell my nieces. This book is for all the young people that I love and adore. That it's okay to stand out because you will find your place. For me, basketball, I can go in any city in America and go to a basketball court, go to a basketball game, and I am at home and with my people. And so for me, it's basketball. For you, it's golf. For someone else, it may be music. So find your thing and find your tribe. And that's the only space where it really matters if you fit in or not, because you
Yeah.
can't be everything to everyone. So it's very healing.
And I do like that it's a different country as well. I know for me, when I go back to Peru, because that's where my grandmother's ancestry is, I feel at home instantly. Instantly.
Yes.
And whatever that is for us, right? Whether it's a place, whether it's a sport, finding that and nurturing that, it's so important.
It's such a gift. It's such a gift and when you're younger, you don't necessarily know that that's what it is. But you
Yeah.
continue to have these experiences. There are people and things that are going to be drawn to you. And you realize, oh, this is the essence of who I am. This is what gives me opportunity. Well, let me just stick with this thing because it hasn't steered me wrong. I haven't gone wrong like you, when you go back home to Peru, or when I am involved in sport, or when I'm helping people share and express their voices. Nothing can go wrong when you're in your lane. Things aren't always perfect, but you'll always be on the right path.
Yeah. And when you say 6'1", I laugh because people, when they see me after doing podcasting and they've never seen me before, I'm like 5'2". And so they're always like, see, your eyes, they're like, you're a little shorty. And so again, being back in Peru, everybody's short like me. I'm like, these are my people.
Great point. Yes.
All right. So let's wrap it up with your favorite snack.
My favorite snack is popcorn. I love popcorn.
Mm,
I can eat popcorn every day. Hot popcorn, like movie theater, butter, seasoned popcorn. Love popcorn.
I am so with you. I love popcorn too. Angela, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're bringing to uh, the world, just in what you're putting out there to support people in their growth. And I'm so excited for this book for the younger generation to be able to have this as well. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.